Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. It's one of those days today. Hello and welcome to the second annual New Jersey Youth Transition Conference. My name is Audrey Mariani and I represent the Camden County Family Support Organization on behalf of the YTC Planning Committee. We will place a registration form in the chat box for you to share your contact information so that we can share the recordings and resources with you once the workshop is complete. Please note, for those who are seeking continuing education credits, you are required to complete the form, as this is the contact method in which we will send you your proof of attendance. And that has been dropped in the chat once again. Right now. Today's workshop will be hosted via the same link you are joined with today. You can see the full schedule on our website, and I will share the agenda on the screen after the conclusion of this workshop. Our presenter today is Christina Gonzalez from the Division of Developmental Disabilities, who will present on the topic Recipes for a Meaningful Life. There will be a Q&A session after the workshop. Please be mindful to put all of your questions in the chat as we go through, and we will make sure we get any questions to Christina. Christina, are you there?
I am. Thank you.
Hello, Christina. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today and all your wonderful work.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Got it. Good.
It's been a while since I've been on Zoom, so just bear with me.
We're all back in kind of sort of in-person Zoom limbo, right? We're kind of navigating.
I'm telling you.
You got it. You're awesome.
Okay, thanks. Okay, everybody can see that okay?
Yep, we're good to go.
All right, good.
Thank you again.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is Christina Gonzalez, and I am a coordinator with Transition to Adult Services and Employment at the Division of Developmental Disabilities. So thank you so much for being here today. I do appreciate it. So today we're going to discuss recipes for adulthood, addressing the same main areas in life that lead to success, meaning, and fulfillment. And this presentation is meant for you to begin thinking about how you envision the future for yourself or a loved one as they leave school and move into adulthood. So as a student moves from the school system into the adult service system, it's really important to begin planning for what their adult life will look like while the student is still in school. So services within the school system have moved from, what we like to call a one-stop shop, just like one centralized system, to where the individual must now navigate through, multiple entities where they're going to need to work with more than one agency and provider for the same services. So currently, most services are arranged and provided by the school, but then once leaving the school, that person is now responsible for arranging their services. Each individual, as they come into adult service system with DDD, will be assigned a support coordinator, which is essentially a case manager who can provide resources and just give you some general guidance as you, navigate through the new processes. So I always like to start by talking about, the hopes and dreams for people with disabilities and those who we love who have disabilities. So here we're looking at commonly reported hopes and dreams, and these are often very similar to the hopes and dreams typically shared by people of all abilities, right? We all want to have, to live a fulfilled life. So when we think about hopes and dreams, we're focusing on these areas of personal growth and independence, fiscal stability, a sense of belonging and relationships. We all want purpose in our lives, health and safety, happiness, and a place to live. So again, this pretty much applies, to anyone you would ask, and it's no different for anyone who has a disability. There are multiple ways to obtain these hopes and dreams. We could look at each one separately and try to figure out, okay, how can I help someone with personal growth or help that person gain independence? Or what we can do is really get to know that person, right? And find out, what it is they enjoy doing or not doing, who they like spending their time with, and what makes them feel good. And what traits does that individual have that really contributes to his great personality. So really taking all of these characteristics of who the individual is, and then translating that into what that person does each day, which will hopefully then lead to achieving these areas that we're looking at here. The division recently created a framework called Recipes to empower individuals in reaching their hopes and dreams by addressing these 7 areas. So we're looking at responsibilities, education, community life, individuals' health and well-being, a place to live, employment, and social life. And the idea is that if you focus on each of these areas, then you're likely going to find, those hopes and dreams of having independence, a feeling of sense of belonging, and so on. And we're going to talk a little bit more about each of these as we move on. So I really want to point out, though, that not everyone needs to address all 7 of these areas, right? So you may be someone who already has a really great social life. So you may want to focus on, those other 6 and give less attention to the other because you have that already. But, we all like social lives, so we can always improve upon them too. All right, so keeping in mind that life is a journey, right? So, many of us prepare for life expecting that we're going to, get from A to B. We know where we're going to start, we know where we want to end, and, expecting that journey to be a straight line, right? But when it isn't a straight line that we expected, which, it never really is, we then often, become frustrated or want to give up. So using employment as an example, excuse me, we start out with the idea that, someone wants to work. Great, that's what we want. We help develop a plan. We figure out what skills that need to be worked on. We're going to do resumes, we're going to set up interviews, and that person is going to find a job. That's the straight line that, that we're talking about. But, in reality, what often happens is that person struggles with finding a job, or maybe struggles with the interview and is not getting hired. Maybe they don't always understand what's expected of them on the job, or haven't disclosed that they need extra support on the job. And unfortunately, because of this, there are those who end up losing their job. And these are the twists and turns that happen, but that's okay, because, each of these learning experiences, help that person, become who they are. So really the message is to keep trying and don't give up, even when things don't go as planned. All right, so here we're looking at the services and supports available through DDD funding. It's a really comprehensive list. We want to make sure that anyone who's receiving these services really has the opportunity to, live life and have the most opportunities within the community that they could possibly have. So some of these may or may not be used depending on, the support needs of the person. And then again, we'll delve into these a little bit more. All right, so responsibilities. So we move through responsibilities. The first thing that we start thinking about are, what chores and responsibilities are needed for that individual, which aren't always fun, but necessary, right? So, we're looking at cleaning and budgeting and banking, laundry and cooking. And then we'll begin identifying the skills someone needs to build, for them to be able to complete these responsibilities. So, for example, if you have somebody who has to, wear a uniform daily, whether it be work or whatever they're doing that day, you're going to need to know how to do laundry so that you can, keep your uniform clean. And just like all of us, our responsibilities change depending on what stage of life we're in, right? So something, those chores and responsibilities that we may do while we're living at home with mom and dad are going to look different than those if we should live in our own apartment or maybe with a roommate. All right, and then as we move forward, you're going to see how the different areas of recipes begin overlapping each other, you know, because one affects the other. All right, so some examples may include, you know, skill development. You know, if someone needs help with cooking, how can we build those skills? Transportation, you're going to hear a lot about. It's a big piece for all of these areas. You know, we need to know how we're getting to and from places, right? You may need a person to provide support. And then maybe these are community-based supports or individual supports that can be used to support that individual should they need to go shopping. You know, they can teach them how to, you know, write a shopping list or maneuver through the store. And then we need to know how how that support's going to be provided. So is it a circle of support or natural supports? You know, this could be, you know, family, friends, neighbors that can help out, as well as let's look at, you know, funding from other agencies and then DDD services as well. So some of the areas that can be used when learning about these chores or recipes, you know, we're looking at community-based supports and individual supports, having that person maybe meet with the individual to go over a weekly or monthly budget, or maybe come to the house, you know, to help out with, you know, other tasks that are needed, and take them out and really get them involved on how to build those skills. And then dehabilitation. This is where the individual learns, you know, daily living skills, and with the hope that eventually transfers into real life. And then again, transportation. And then even though it isn't highlighted, goods and services can also be used to support their transportation need. Depending on the skill level of the individual, we can provide driving lessons and tutoring for a driving test through these funded services. All right. So moving on to the next area of the recipes, education covers a wide variety of things, right? It's just not necessarily going to college. It covers, you know, personal growth or learning and skill development. It is helpful to make a list that the individual needs or wants additional education, skill development, or learning. You know, this can help with, you know, what type of job they might want to get in the future or setting they want to live in, you know, really, tailoring those skills. And then, you know, where can an individual get these skills? Some maybe college or post-secondary education, vocational skills, you know, classes and programs. Dehabilitation programs can, you know, help teach hygiene skills or other skills that can use. And, you know, and sometimes, you know, education is just for fun. So taking, you know, a music class to learn to play an instrument is always fun as well. So how are we going to get these access, you know, the education piece? It could be through funding, such as financial aid, transportation. We could fund tutoring or a person to provide support if someone needs to learn how to maneuver in between buildings while at classes. You know, we can certainly provide that support as well. Again, all natural supports and agency services, and then that financial piece, that financial aid. You know, if you apply for financial aid and receive a portion of the tuition, DDD can then pick up the balance. So for education, the individual, again, may go to a day hab program, provide, you know, use goods and services for the tutoring or a music class. And then we also have pre-vocational training, where these are programs that begin teaching skills if they want to, you know, find employment in the future. All right, so community life. You know, we need to identify interests. You know, what does that individual like to do or have interest in? Where does that person like to go or like to talk about? These are the things we need to know to ensure, they're receiving the services that are important to them. That person can determine, how and where they want to be involved with others. And some of these examples are, work. If they're working, they can learn to build relationships with coworkers. If they're taking classes, there's people in the classes that have similar interests. Social media groups, there's a ton of them out there. So if someone enjoys talking about classic cars, they can get on that social media group and have those discussions with other people that have that interest as well. And then clubs and, places of worship, maybe that person enjoys going to church or synagogue. All right, so to help someone get involved in their community, they may need assistance with organizing, communicating, or securing transportation. They may need someone to provide extra support, either with personal care or safety. And, we're looking at, finances too, like who is going to pay for these various activities. So, each person, may need a different level when planning, assistance when planning, right? So there's some individuals who can just pick up their phone and throw a text or call someone and say, hey, let's go hang out. While others who have a higher level of support needs may need family or staff to, arrange these activities for them. So it really looks different for everyone. And then again, where's that support coming from? Through agencies and natural supports. So the highlighted, the highlighted services are most commonly used are, again, that community-based support and individual supports. Now with community inclusion services, this is a service where that's delivered in small group settings. So if someone wants to go to a Phillies game with their roommates, we can use community inclusion services for that. And again, there's other supports there that can apply for each individual. So an individual's health and well-being is a big one because it encompasses, a lot of different areas that need to be looked at, especially when a young person's coming out of the school system and coming into adulthood. We have to consider their medical, physical health, mental and behavioral health, spiritual health, and then social, relationship, and recreational as well. And all of these, are really equally important for that person to maintain their overall health and well-being. So as we look into the medical piece of it, we need to know what are current medical health concerns. Who are the current medical professionals? As a young person moves away from pediatric doctors, and they're going to now start needing to find, adult doctors and dentists and things of that nature. So developing a plan, in order to find these doctors are particularly important because you don't want any lapse of services. So we kind of have to plan for that ahead of time as well. And you want to start having discussions with these new doctors, indicating, an individual's needs and how to address those needs. So, someone may have a fear of needles or may need to be sedated during, dental visits. This needs to be communicated to these new, caregivers and professionals and supports as well. In terms of physical health, are there physical health concerns for that person, maybe related to weight, eating habits, or stamina? Indicating ideas for improving these health concerns. Maybe they need a gym membership for working out. Learning how to cook and eat and healthy snacks and meals. Someone may not know the difference of what is considered healthy or unhealthy. So that education plays a role in this. And then keeping those regular doctor and dental appointments. Spiritual health, mental and behavioral health, listing those current mental behavioral health concerns, you know, discussing what supports are currently in place to address those concerns, you know, through the psychiatrist and the behaviorist and behavioral plans. And then, you know, keeping in mind that some of these doctors as well may need to be changed as that young person becomes older. So that effective communication between the old and new providers is also key. So with spiritual health, you know, we need to know, you know, does that person affiliate themselves with a specific religion? And what are those factors to consider? You know, between house of worship and holidays, food, different food restrictions based on maybe that person's religion, through religious ceremonies and prayer. And then are there spiritual considerations of importance outside of the religion? So, you know, if someone really enjoys meditating, let's say, thinking about where that can take place for that person, it could be in the home. But then, you know, some people enjoy meditating outside. So these are, you know, different things to consider and are just as important as those who are affiliated with religion as well. And then social relationship, recreational health. You know, how is that individual going to maintain balance in their life beyond work and responsibilities? You know, we all need that. So, and oftentimes this is going to fall into the community life and social life. So these are examples that can support that person maintaining their health and well-being. There's various therapies, you know, gym memberships, transportation, person to provide support. And then we're going to, again, look at that natural supports and various state services, agencies, along with DDD funding. All right, so then, you know, with the community-based supports, you know, maybe helping to, you know, accompany that person to the gym to make sure maybe they're not leaving the building, if that's a concern. With goods and services can help pay for that gym membership, or maybe if the person needs to take a nutrition class. And then all of the therapies, occupational, physical, speech, language, hearing, and therapies. And then also there is something called natural supports training, which can also be applied here as well. And this is a service where a caregiver can be trained on some of the tasks that maybe a nurse would typically do. So for example, if a person uses a feeding tube, you know, a nurse can come in and train that family member if that's something, you know, that they want to do. And then so that the nurse doesn't have to keep coming back and the family member, you know, has just some more education on how to care for their loved one. So a place to live can really look different for everyone, depending on where they're at in their stage of life. So in order to ensure that individuals getting what they need from their services, you know, we have to begin identifying the ideal living situation. You know, does that person want to live with family or roommates or maybe alone? In terms of location, you know, does that person want to, you know, live near their family or in an area where stores and shops are within walking distance? Do they want to live in a home or apartment or a condo? And is there anything about their current living situation that they want to change? You know, maybe they're, for whatever reason, you know, they want a different roommate, something to consider. And then what needs to be addressed to reach these ideal living situations? So accessing the neighborhood, you know, accessing a neighborhood looks very different for someone who lives on their own compared to someone living in a group home who receives 24-hour staff. With budgeting finances and figure out how, you know, different bills may be paid. You know, staffing, there are different levels of staff support available. So it's not to where you should automatically assume that if someone needs staff support that they automatically have to go into a group home, you know, unless there, you know, there is a need for 24-hour support there. And then skills and responsibilities, you know, having a conversation about what types of responsibilities are needed, you know, for that specific residential setting. So in terms of support, there's funding vouchers available for anyone who wants to live outside of their family home. there is a opportunity for assistance depending on the voucher. Someone can receive assistance with their daily living skills. There's in-home supports available, transportation as well. And then how will this support be provided? In addition to the natural supports and other state agencies, there are housing subsidies and vouchers, one of which is available through the Supportive Housing Connection, which is designed specifically for people with disabilities. All right. In addition to the ones that we've been using, environmental modifications is added to this list. If someone is in need of a ramp installed at the home or more of an accessible bathroom, DDD funding can help provide that, as well as personal emergency response systems where they can, call for medical attention if needed. And all of these support that person in their home. So employment, the second E of recipes, which is my personal favorite. It's one that can really change someone's life when you see someone, bring home a paycheck and you see that person evolving and feeling like they have a sense of purpose. So when we talk about employment, it's good to know that New Jersey is an employment first state, which basically means competitive employment is the first preferred outcome for people with disabilities post-education. So things you want to explore in terms of employment, what is the current interest that person has in employment? So does that individual want to work or not work? If not, let's find out why, right? So maybe there's a fear of the individual losing their benefits. So we'll talk about how you can work without losing benefits, or having supports in a workplace to address safety concerns about, if that's the need. We'll identify things the individual likes doing and talking about. If, an interest is gardening, maybe that person prefers to work alone. So we need to know these things to be able to, find them something that's going to be a good fit for them. We're going to identify, why the individual enjoys these types of things and the various skills required to do them. Identify types of jobs that require these same skills and interests, how to take those skills and interests and then translating them into a job. This particular individual may want to work at a garden center. They might like being outdoors and, enjoy that gardening piece of it. And then listing any experience that individual has had and what types, experiences can contribute to finding the job. Things to consider when looking for employment: location, does that person have transportation, or will that person need to, learn how to take public transportation? Do they want to work full-time or part-time? Are there preferred shifts? Maybe someone isn't much of a morning person and would prefer to work, late afternoon shift. Available days of the week. Does that person, do they attend church on Sundays where they would want to have off that week? A preferred salary, this varies depending on the type of job, but, it is important, that, well, it's mandatory that they have to get paid over minimum wage and is comparable to others who are working in that same job. The work environment, we have a lot of individuals who have sensory issues. So taking that environment in consideration, with the light and the noise level, should be factored in. And then again, those cultural and religious considerations, and then benefits. Examples of, helping that person find and maintain a job: additional education. Maybe that a certificate is needed to work in a daycare, or maybe there's a job that particular job doesn't need any extra education, as long as you have those basic skills. The skill development, someone may need to learn money skills, improve their money skills so that they can work a cash register. Maybe communication, behavioral health, and personal grooming needs to be addressed. That transportation. And then, how much or how little supervision does someone need when they're working? Someone may need little supervision when they become familiar of the job expectations, whereas someone else may need, long-term support. And then DVRS is a great source for the educational piece. The employment piece of it. Hopefully, prior to getting out of school, they've already were referred to DVRS, and this helps with the planning process as well. So to assist with the employment, we're looking at assistive technology, career planning, a service that can identify interests, come up with employment plans with the individual, not official employment plans, but really get an idea of, what their interests are in, and just kind of taking steps of how to get there. That extra staff support through community-based supports, goods and services. The pre-vocational training does provide extra training for skill development, supported employment, where an individual can work in a small group or even individually to gain those extra employment skills. It also provides long-term follow-along services who's going to need that extra support. And to finish up with recipes, social life, which is always fun, right? So when we have a healthy social life, we build and foster relationships with others, that contribute to our health and well-being. So, list current social, recreational, and fun activities. What does the individual want to continue? How can that person access these activities? And are there any new interests in looking into new activities? By identifying these activities with transportation, and if there's any extra support needed, can help maintain or establish that social life. And those natural supports and other state agencies through funding can also assist as well. And then how will the individual maintain those relationships and make new ones? So make a list of the people currently important to that person. It could be family and friends. Maybe it's, a grandmother. Maybe they want to maintain relationships that, they've made while they were in school. Or, staff and support professionals. Maybe they've developed a great relationship in school with their soccer coach, and wants to maintain that relationship as well. And to maintain these social connections, you want to identify how to maintain those relationships. So, they could be meeting each other in the, hanging out through social media, the clubs, the places of worship, and family gatherings. When we talk about maintaining that social life, we're talking about helping organization. We touched on that, on how much, depending on the support needs, how much organization and communication is needed, and then the money piece, again, how are those activities going to be paid for? And if they need a person to help provide support through personal care or safety, navigating the computer, and then the support coming from those natural supports and state agencies. Community inclusion services, goods and services, and transportation are all funded services that can support that person in their social life. And then that support coordinator that will be assigned once that person enters into DDD services, they're going to be able to help assist in identifying providers who can, deliver the services and supports that are needed, for that person to follow his or her recipes. So when we look at the provider search database, we can look up various support coordination agencies, as well as if you have something specific in mind, like maybe a pre-vocational training program or a day habilitation program, you can go on this database and narrow that down to see exactly what agencies provide that for you. The Bog Center, DDD works closely with the Bog Center, and they develop different guides that are really helpful and user-friendly. So there's one here to select a service provider, as well as selecting a support coordination agency. And then you can find additional DDD information. Our website has pretty much everything you need to know. So we want you to take a look at that. If you are interested in getting, updates from DDD, we have a communications email that you can request to subscribe to. Then we have, the supports program and community care program policies and procedure manuals. These two manuals are very extensive, but we want you to have the link. And then we have a family quick guide, which pretty much condenses some of that information from those two manuals. That makes it definitely, easier for families to understand. So that concludes the presentation. I hope, that you did find some of the information beneficial. And, you begin developing your own recipes for yourself, for your loved ones. So thank you. And then I also want to point out that my email is here. If you have any specific questions. And we also have a transition help desk, which my unit directly responds to those emails. So if you think of any questions that you've, after hearing this today, or have just any questions in general about DDD, shoot us an email, and then we'll do the best we can to help you or point you in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina. That was absolutely wonderful. Lots of great information. So if there's time now for any questions, if anybody wants to put some questions in the chat, and then we can cover any gray areas.
Hi, friends. It's Amy. I have some questions that came to me via the chat during Christina's presentation. One says, do DDR counselors automatically refer rollover clients to DDD?
You know what? I'm not quite sure. I do know if you are referred to as a child and you work with DBRS, then as you come into our system, the person will be asked if they want to proceed with employment. So a new referral would have to be put in.
Thank you.
Sure.
Next question is, can DBRS and DDD overlap?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, so if someone is involved with DBRS and they have some job coaching, but let's just say that individual needs some extra behavioral support, as long as services aren't duplicative, that we're not utilizing the same services that DBRS has, then yes, that individual, could potentially use maybe behavioral supports funding from DDD to, support them with the job coach.
Thank you. Next question is, at what age can students or clients be referred?
Be referred to DDD?
DDD, yes. Sorry for not clarifying.
Yeah, so what we suggest is that you can apply anytime after the age of 18. So in order to begin that transition process at the age of 18, that student or young adult needs to go down and reapply for adult Medicaid, even if they've had Medicaid, as a child. So at 18, you have to reapply for Medicaid because, we work off of that Medicaid waiver. At 19, and really anytime after 18, you can apply, but without that Medicaid, that's gonna be a barrier. So that's important.
So Christina, are you saying that DDD services start for an individual that qualifies at age 18?
No, what I'm saying is you can begin applying at 18. DDD services do not begin until the age of 21. So, which is why the division tries to encourage families and students to have that person stay in school through their educational entitlement, if they find that they're going to need those DDD services. Because, you know, if someone were to graduate at 19 and DDD services can't pick up until 21, you really need to have an idea of, you know, what those next 2 years and what type of supports that person's going to need.
Thank you. Next question is, are you able to talk a little bit more about this function of a supports broker?
Sure. So the supports broker, you know, is one of the funded services where an individual can, you know, have the service so that they can self-direct their own services. They'll have someone, you know, assist them, but it's really self-direction from the individual and family. Any other questions?
We also have a follow-up presentation at 3 o'clock on the Office on Education and Self-Direction today. So I believe they'll go into a little more detail about supports brokerage. And we're also hosting Teresa Santana, who was here in this workshop a little earlier. I'm not sure if she's still here, but if she is, hi, Teresa. Teresa and
hello, I'm
Tony
here.
Scott. Yay. Teresa, Tony Scott with DVRS, and Paul Aronson and the Community Health Law Project are all joining the Youth Transition Planning Committee on Friday from 12 to 2. So if you'd have any extra questions that you think of from now till then, or if you'd like one-on-one support, you're welcome to join that Friday 12 to 2 workshop. We'll have breakout rooms so you can meet with people individually if you'd like to speak about personal things.
Definitely. It's a lot of good information this week.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it really is.
Christina, I just got another question for you.
Sure.
Our son will be 21 next year and has a tier assigned. Can we select a support coordination agency now, even though we have not yet received a form from DDD?
This is Teresa.
Yeah, thanks.
They can apply. They could send the form in 2 months before the person turns 21.
Thank you, Teresa. Thanks, Christina. Oh, this is to me personally. You're getting a lot of compliments in here, ladies. Christina,
thank you.
Great info. That's all the questions coming to me. Audrey, do you have any on your end, or Christina in your chat, maybe personally?
I don't see any.
I do not, no.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. You know, this is it's a lot, right? So hopefully it just really kind of helps, you know, we just want everyone to, you know, get a good feel of who their loved one is and really support them the best we can. So thank you.
It's a lot of excellent information. Thank you. It was so much. It's a lot, but it's wonderful. It's going to help so many, like you said, getting to know somebody, really know them, what their goals, their ambitions are, is what helps people have the best life possible. So I think it's wonderful information for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this concludes the workshop, Recipes for a Meaningful Life from Division of Developmental Disabilities. Thank you, Christina Gonzalez, for sharing your knowledge and resources. The workshop recording will be made available on our website in November. For those in need of proof of attendance for continuing education credits, you will receive an email soon with your certificate. It's up to your employer to accept this as proof of continuing education. You will not receive the certificate if you did not register using the form shared today, which is in the chat. If you have any questions, please reach us at njyouthtransition@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Christina, for everything. And
thank you.
Have a real wonderful, wonderful day.
You too.